Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 16, which we're going to jump into the world of cryptozoology by request, in which I'm going to talk about the Jersey Devil. I had a lot of requests to talk about Bigfoot, but to be honest, not only have I never been on a Bigfoot hunt, I'm not a believer either in Bigfoot. And people are like, what do you mean you're not a believer in Bigfoot? I'm a believer in the concept of Bigfoot, that it's quite possible that somewhere on Earth there is a giant ape-like creature. I still have to have some form of evidence. And without, bones or hair or there's just nothing to Bigfoot besides eyewitness sightings and footprints, And to me, I just need more than that. But my close friend Craig Powell is a big-time believer in Bigfoot, and they call it Yowie in Australia. And Craig has been Yowie hunting in the Blue Mountains, and he says he's had experiences, which I believe that he believes he experienced something. And the next time I go there, perhaps I will go Yowie hunting, and then I can do a Yowie/Bigfoot episode. But for right now, the one experience I had in the world of cryptozoology is that I was fortunate enough to be on the only investigation ever of the Jersey Devil to actually have footage and evidence captured, which was actually a thermal scan of something completely unexplained that just happened to fit the description perfectly of what the Jersey Devil is. And a lot of people don't know what the Jersey Devil is. It's a beast that is believed to fly interdimensionally, to zip in and out of our dimension, in which it is described as having kind of short legs, a long body, kind of a horse-like face, wings, claws, and red eyes. And it is said to have originated in the Pine Barrens in New Jersey. The other name for the Jersey Devil is the Leeds Devil, and I'm not completely sure of all the details to the story, but there was a woman named Mrs. Leeds who had a ton of children, and I believe her 13th child, she cursed her 13th child and said, let him be a devil, and when she gave birth to him, he went crashing out the window of their place and into the wilderness. And that is what supposedly the Jersey Devil is a deformed feral child that became a monster due to this curse that his own mother put on him. Now that's obviously lore and legend. I don't know how much of that's true, but I do know the Leeds bloodline is real because we actually interviewed people from the Leeds family during this episode. When I first heard that we were going to go investigate the Jersey Devil, I had mixed feelings on it because I knew from my own research that there just had never been any solid evidence captured that this thing exists. But I did like the idea of going after something unique and something that had a home base. And again, the Pine Barrens is the home base. And there's a really unique history to this thing. I mean, it dates back to 1820. Napoleon's brother claimed to have seen the Jersey Devil. And there's been multiple sightings of the Jersey Devil all the way up to New York, into Philadelphia. At one point, there was a craze throughout Philadelphia where the Jersey Devil was seen flying throughout the city during broad daylight. And these sightings went on for like 2 weeks. So there's a lot of really crazy history to this thing. So I thought for the episode, we should just really, really focus on the history and talk to as many people as we can that have seen the Jersey Devil, because I'm pretty sure we're not going to catch any footage of the Jersey Devil when we investigate because nobody else had. But regardless, I was excited to do it, especially because the politics of these things, on Paranormal State, when you're on a television show and it makes a certain amount of money, they do not want to deviate from their bread and butter. And the Paranormal State bread and butter was people in trouble, and especially if they can find children. Oh my God. I mean, it drove me nuts. The one thing that I hated about the executives at A&E that we worked with, I mean, if they could have had a completely possessed child for every episode, that's what they wanted. Let's find a child in trouble that pulls on the heartstrings. and there was just constant battle. It was just, oh gosh, I don't miss that. I don't miss the politics of selecting cases. And not that it necessarily fell on my shoulders, but I was directing at this point. So I was in a lot of these conversations. Ryan and the network together were supposed to work out the cases, and then obviously I would direct them. I did not direct this episode. I was just an investigator on this episode. But the other reason I was super excited about the Jersey Devil episode of Paranormal State is because it involved Bill Burns. I am a huge Bill Burns fan. I grew up watching Bill Burns on every UFO special there is. If you guys watched UFO Hunters, Bill is the guy that wore the sunglasses all the time. He was the owner and editor of UFO Magazine. And you want to talk about a storyteller? Oh my God, I could listen to that man tell stories. He was supposed to be on the Assetti Ranch episode, the UFO Ranch episode, but the budget wasn't there to fly him in for that episode because the cast was already expanded pretty big. So we had his contact information, and when this opportunity came up, it was just a chance to work with another investigator, and yeah, Bill came in for it, which that was really one of the highlights of my entire time working on Paranormal State, was getting a chance to meet him and befriend him and work with one of the best investigators ever. So that was a lot of fun having him on board. But when we got there, we had a ton of interviews set up. And you never know how things are going to turn out when you do interviews, especially with something like this. And I was praying that it wasn't going to be just a line of weirdos, you know? And it was not. It was fascinating that every single person that we interviewed, I found to be credible. And that is very rare. Nobody seemed crazy. Everybody seemed completely honest. I mean, like, the first two people we interviewed were, offering to take lie detector tests without us even suggesting it. They were just like, yeah, I'll take a polygraph. I remember this one story where this guy said it was in the middle of winter and he heard scratching on his roof. And he went outside and he said he sat and watched this thing for several minutes going back and forth across his rooftop. So it wasn't like he was saying, I barely got a view of it. He was saying, look, I saw this thing and watched it for several minutes. So pretty crazy. But one thing you need to know about the Pine Barrens that's really, really interesting, and I'll come back to this later, and I'll explain why this is important. The Pine Barrens is not a forest. There's tons of trees that are close to each other. The Pine Barrens are these super, super tall, really skinny trees that are placed, 15, 20 feet apart from each other. So, you can be 100 yards away from me and I could still see you easily in the Pine Barrens. It's just wide open. You could walk forever and not even hit a pine barren tree. Super tall too, super tall. The branches are really, really thin. The leaves are way at the top. Feel free to Google the pictures of the Pine Barrens. So first off, I had never been in a place like the Pine Barrens, so I was like, this is awesome. And when we got there, the first night, we just basically talked about the history of the Jersey Devil, and we did a short kind of walk around. It was more of an equipment check than anything else because we were using an HD thermal cam that I brought, and nothing happened. We went out, nothing happened at all. But the second night is when we went to the Pine Barrens, and the second night is when, Bill was with us. And I was kind of bummed out at first because Ryan, Bill, and Serge were together in one group, and then Katrina and I were together in another group. So I didn't get a chance to investigate with Bill on that night. I mean, not that I was bummed out to work with Katrina. I had a blast investigating with Katrina. Always. It was always fun working with her. So we went to the Pine Barrens, and we went to completely different areas of the actual forest, the Pine Barren forest. They were probably 7, 8 football fields away, good 800 yards away from us. So far away, I can't see them, can't hear them, intentionally. And the idea was that we would start on one end, and we would both kind of circle around where we would meet, where you can see Atlantic City across the water from where we were. That's probably hard to understand without a visual of it. But basically, we had a good plan where we wouldn't cross each other's tracks, is what I'm saying. So Katrina and I didn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. We didn't hear any wildlife. It was so cold that night. It was really, really cold out. But I don't remember seeing anything. I mean, I didn't step on a snake. I didn't hear a squirrel, nothing. And our cameraman, I could tell, I hated when we did investigations like that and nothing happened, because these poor camera guys just have to lug these massively heavy cameras around with nothing going on. And they're just as susceptible to the adrenaline as we are. So you always hope something happens, because then everybody's having fun, right? But this was a really, really boring, super boring investigation. We meet back up with Ryan and Surgeon Bill, but it's super quick. It's just kind of like, hey, did you guys find anything? And that night, all they said was, maybe we'll have to check the tapes. And I'm like, well, that didn't sound like, holy shit, we filmed the Jersey Devil. So I just assumed they filmed some kind of wildlife or something like that. We all hopped in different cars and went back to our hotels. I show up on set the next morning, and Ryan says, dude, grab your camera. I got to talk to you. And I'm like, all right. And I go out to this kind of wooded area with him to interview him. And he goes, turn it on. And I turn the camera on and hit record. And I remember this. I was looking through the viewfinder, and he had this, grin on his face. And Ryan said, I think we filmed something. And I said, fuck off. And he goes, I'm serious. I think we filmed something. I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, I think we filmed a Jersey Devil. Wait. And he pauses again and goes, actually, I think it's a baby Jersey Devil. Which I started laughing. I was like, a baby Jersey Devil. And he goes, well, you have to see it. But it looks like the Jersey Devil, but I think it's smaller. But it's hard to tell because it's in thermal. And I'm still honestly thinking, this is like some kind of troll or some kind of prank or something. And I'm like, you're serious? He's like, Chad, I swear to God, we filmed what I believe is the Jersey Devil. And I go, okay, well, let's go see this footage right now. So we go back, and I want to see the footage right away, and they're not letting me see it because they want to film it, obviously, with the film crew. And I'm dying. I mean, I am dying to see this footage. So we finally get, everybody together. It's me, Ryan, Bill, Serge. And they're telling me that they were just walking through the Pine Barrens with the thermal, and they came across this image that just popped on the screen. And they're saying, yeah, this thing, it has wings, a long body, short legs, and like a horse-like face. I'm like, it has wings. And they're like, yes, you could actually see the wings move. I'm like, you are kidding me. And they're like, no, pull the footage up. So they pull the footage up, and I am floored by what I see, because true to the description of the Jersey Devil, that's exactly what is in this thermal. Short legs, long body, what appears to be wings, horse-like face, but something that was really unique, that you see a split second of it in the episode, and we talked about it in grand detail. And I just don't think the editor understood the importance of this and why it should have been in the episode. Is that after they watched this thing forever, right? It was a very long time that they filmed it for. I mean, a good minute or so. This thing turns, jumps, and vanishes. Just out of thin air. There is zero heat signature. Now, why is this important? Okay, now the Jersey Devil, as I told you before, supposedly is an interdimensional traveler, which means it hops into our dimension and hops out. A lot of people think that Bigfoot does this too. And if that were the case, on a thermal camera, what you would see is just a heat signature appear, and then it would be gone. It would disappear. Now, what's interesting about thermal cams is they pick up heat on anything. So like if a deer is walking through and it was standing against leaves, okay, the heat from the body of the deer would heat up those leaves, in which if the deer left, you would see tracks, you would see its body heat on the leaves, you would see all of that stuff, right? None of that was there in this footage. This thing just appears and kind of lumbers back and forth ever so slightly, and then turns, jumps, and vanishes. No heat signatures on the ground, no heat signatures against anything. It's just gone. Now, you could say, well, maybe just, duck behind a tree or something. No, no, no. This is the Pine Barrens. Remember? Very, very tall trees that are a good 15, 20 feet apart from each other, where 100 yards away, I could see somebody standing. Without question. There's nothing for this thing to hide behind, okay? There's nothing for this thing to hide behind. So the most mind-blowing thing about this footage is not that it had wings, which that's fascinating in and of itself, but this thing turned, jumped, and vanished, all right? Vanished. No sign of it. And the way it just appeared as well. They're just walking, and all of a sudden, blip, it's right there. It was the craziest thing, especially because it matches the belief system. Everything that people reported. Everybody that we talked to said it had short legs, long body, long neck, horse face, wings on it. That's what appears in the thermal image. Then the belief is it just appears in our dimension, then it vanishes. And that's why no one could get footage of it or a picture of it. It's so fast. It appears so fast and it leaves so quickly. And for what it's worth, I think the other reason that nobody has footage or photos of this thing is because nobody hunts for it. To be honest, a lot of them are like me. They're super skeptical to the degree that they go, nobody has ever caught anything, so why bother? Well, we bothered. We went out and tried, and they actually caught something. Now, could it be a deer? There were a lot of people that were super skeptical that said, well, it could be a deer. Well, we had hunters there in New Jersey that we talked to and showed the footage to. And again, this footage is not in the episode, but we did this, like hunters that were like, no, that's not a deer. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to say it's a Jersey Devil, but it's not a deer. And beyond that, you got to go back to the fact that even if it were a deer, when it turned and jumped, it wouldn't have vanished. It could have ran for 100 plus yards and they could have tracked it and filmed it with that thermal. Plus, it would have left heat signatures. It would have left footprints. This thing vanished. And last but not least, when it comes to fakery, I can honestly tell you guys, that's impossible. Not only would I never be involved with anything that involved fakery, I don't even know how you could have faked it unless you're doing like the Grinch thing and tie wings to a dog or something and make him stand still and then vanish. I mean, there's just no way that would have happened. When it comes to evidence, everyone just clearly understood either we're going to capture it for real or we're not going to. So when I look back at all the investigations that I did on Paranormal State, the footage that stands alone in my mind as the most mind-blowing thing that we filmed throughout that entire series is that damn Jersey Devil footage. And I can't believe that it was captured. I just can't because, what are the chances? It was one of those moments where I said this when I was there. I said, God, you almost don't want to release it because, of course, everyone's going to go, okay, they go hunting for the Jersey Devil and they film them on a thermal. Of course. It was one of those things where it was too good. It was too good. And I had that happen when I was in Gettysburg. I had went to the bathroom and I had filmed apportation, meaning my camera basically swings across this sink and a half second later the camera swings back and you could see that this hand soap just moves. And we didn't catch it when it happened. We caught it on the review and barely. And I said, man, I don't even want to put this out there because it's so strong and it's such good footage that either it's definitive or somebody faked it. And, the skeptical minded that are, stubbornly skeptical are just going to go, oh, they faked it. And that was the same problem that I felt they had with the Jersey Devil footage. I was like, Ryan, this is so mind-blowing that you are either going to have people that believe it or you're going to have people that just say you faked it. And there's no way around that. But I'm here to tell you guys there's no way that footage was faked. But what it taught me more than anything else is go for it, man. If it would have been up to me, we probably would have passed on that case just because nobody else had ever caught evidence before. But because we went there and just tried, because we just tried, they captured it. Which ever since then, that has always stuck in my head. And that's why I say that even though I don't necessarily believe in Bigfoot, I promised Craig Powell that when I go to Australia, he and I will go hunt the Yowie. And when we do our Yowie investigation, I promise all of you that I will let you know exactly what happened. Thank you once again for listening to the In a Crowded Room podcast. I hope you enjoyed episode number 16. Please let me know your thoughts below. Like and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.